Smith. So I started back in March of 2019, so we're getting closer to just about 3 years now. My background, so I am a licensed social worker. I went to University of Southern Indiana to get my master's, which I saw is about to be dementia friendly, I think. They have like a group coming up, so I was so proud to see that. Love USI. Most of my background is working with adults with serious mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, you name it. And then I spent a lot of time working with students who had experienced sexual violence of some sort as well. So when the police department started or wanted to hire their first social worker, it's like all of my favorite things in one, so I couldn't say no. So I've been really lucky to be there since 2019. But Pam, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself real quick?
I'm Pam Gladish. I am a sergeant and the training coordinator for the Bloomington Police Department. I have been with the Bloomington Police Department for 27 years, and I've held several positions as far as that's concerned with the department. I've actually been a sergeant for approximately 20 years. I've worked all 3 shifts, and like I said, my current position right now is training coordinator. What that entails is training new officers as well as, are we stuck on everything? Okay. Training new officers as well as training everybody through the department. And that is everybody from civilians, our community service specialists to patrol officers and detectives in our yearly training. Part of our yearly training does involve the topic of dementia as well as dementia and Alzheimer's.
Some of the things on our agenda today. So we wanted to definitely talk about the social work program and what that looks like. Not every community has a social worker in the police department, so I wanted to make sure we touch base in general about what that looks like. We're also going to talk about the history of dementia training at BPD. That's all Pam later down the road here. And then we also want to talk about just some examples and cases and how we actually put this into practice as well. So those are the things we'll be looking at today. We'll start with what my role is. So I say that I work in 3 buckets. So I'll save the community members for last because that's the bulk of what we do. But we also so there's 3 of us now. So when I say we, it's because there's 3 of us now. So I started in 2019 and we hired 2 more this year. So now there are 3 of us, which is great because I was sinking and drowning with all of the work. So having 3 now, so nice. So those 3 buckets. So one of those buckets is actually working internally with the department. Pam and I have worked together to get the peer support team going. We can work with officers and their families and get their families connected to resources or themselves if they're experiencing a lot of extra stress and anxiety. I'm also part of the crisis hostage negotiation team, which I'm pretty sure is the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life because it's so like policey but not. I'm never the person on the phone. I listen, I provide some feedback and what I think might be going on, those types of things. But I'm never the person on the phone because I don't know tactics. I'm not a police officer. I am a social worker. So I want to make sure nobody gets hurt. They don't put me on the phone, which is fine, I guess. And then community engagement. So we do tons of community engagement. We're on every committee in Bloomington that you can think of: Suicide Prevention Coalition, Fetal Infant Mortality Review. I'm on the Mental Health Problem Solving Court team. You name it, one of us are probably there. We get to do a lot of that, which is great. We also do a lot of going to events. Fortunately, BPD gets invited to tons of events in the community, like table at this little fair, table at this event, or come and hang out with kids. So we will go to those types of things and get to be a little proactive sometimes, which I really like because most of the job we have is reactive to what's going on. So we could get referrals a few different ways. One of those is sometimes we're just in a police car with an officer just riding around and we get into whatever they get into. That's not as common anymore. It was when I was newer, but now I just have so much to do. I don't feel like I can spend all day in a car going to like theft calls. That's just not the best use of my time, right? So I don't get to do that a whole lot anymore. We do get called on scene. So officers will go out, maybe somebody Somebody calls in and says, hey, I think my friend is suicidal. Officers will be dispatched either way. Like, they're never gonna send a social worker by ourselves because you just don't know what's gonna happen. When people call into dispatch, it literally is like, oh, so I think my friend might be suicidal. They don't know if there's weapons, they don't know if there's a plan, they don't know any of that. So they'll send an officer out too, but it's common that they'll ask one of us to go with them. And we'll assess the scene as well with officers, and if officers don't have anything left that they need to do there, they leave and let us just stay and work out whatever's going on. So we have our own cars. They are not branded with police on it. They don't have lights or sirens or anything like that. We just get to show up. Officers will say, okay, well, no crime here, so if you're good, I'm good. And we're like, all right, cool. And we just get to just take over that scene from there, which is really great. So in the process, well, I'll tell you a little more about what that looks like once we get that referral. So sometimes we're in a car, sometimes it's on scene, they call us there. Third way is after something happened. So especially when it was just me, there's only one person, a lot of what happened was when I wasn't at work, and they would say, hey, you know, we showed up on this call today, there wasn't any crime, but clearly there's something going on. They mentioned that they're about to be evicted, they mentioned mental health issues, they mentioned these things, can you follow up with them? And that's what I do. So I can go solo at that point, unless an officer tells me, don't go there by yourself, which has happened, but doesn't happen too much. I will just drive out there, give them a call, meet them in their home, wherever it is, and just see what we need to do to help. So that is a post-incident referral, usually done by email, but sometimes they'll just find me in the hallway, or they will come to the office, whatever, to give that to us to follow up post-incident. So what it looks like when we actually meet with those clients is we do a general assessment of what's going on. What do you need? What services have you had before that you just don't get anymore? People fall through the cracks, and that's what I feel like is the bulk of our job. People have been connected at some point to some service, but they missed 3 appointments, so now they can't go back there, or X, Y, and Z. So we get to fill in that gap. And that's what the police officers see all the time. But now they have that extra resource who gets to spend a lot more time dealing with getting those people out of the cracks. So if people aren't connected to something that they need to be, we will ensure that that connection is made. We don't just say, oh, by the way, you should go to the community mental health agency, that'll really help you. We ensure that they get an appointment, we make sure they get there, we know the date of the appointment, so we'll follow up with them and say, how did the appointment go? You know, we're not just offering resources and hoping for the best, because we know follow-up, especially with people who have the myriad of issues that we're working with, need consistent follow-up. So we'll meet with them numerous times, and it's so great because we aren't paid for by Medicaid, we don't have to bill people's insurances, we don't have to do any of that, so we don't have all those regulations that other practitioners do. We just get to show up, see what's going on, and get them connected. Now, we are licensed therapists as well, so I will do brief intervention therapy while somebody's waiting to get into something long-term. Again, we're never supposed to be somebody's long-term solution, especially in Bloomington. We have tons of resources and really good ones. So we want to get them connected to something long-term, but, and some of that's COVID, it is impossible almost to get a therapist right now. I mean, it takes months. Well, we can provide that in the meantime, so why not? Like, let's get them what they need right then, especially after some really difficult cases that we've had, in like a suicide, survivor, or something like that. They need certain resources right then, so we're gonna help with that. And that looks different, of course, for whoever our clients are, but generally what we find is people have just fallen through the cracks somewhere, so we'll get them reconnected. The whole goal is to decrease repeat callers. I didn't bring all of that data with me, but I do have individual cases where you can see once we got involved, they are not calling into the police anymore. They might be calling me like 5 times a day, but I'm allowed to like set professional boundaries where police aren't. right? They have to show up if somebody calls. So I'd rather them call me when it's not an emergency that actually does require 911, and we're able to meet whatever those needs are in that place. So those are the 3 ways that we typically get referrals. When we get to the cases, I'll walk us through more what it looks like with clients. But before then, I wanted to make sure that we touch base on the history of dementia training at BPD.
So the history of dementia training. So one of the things I do want to first say is that I've been an officer for 27 years, and the state of Indiana has always required some sort of dementia or Alzheimer's training for officers. It is a requirement through the state. So to kind of take that back, right now the state of Indiana requires an officer in the state of Indiana to have 24 hours of mandated training, just generalized topics. And in those generalized 24 hours, they do have to hit on some type of dementia or Alzheimer's training. They don't say how much they have to have, they just have to say it's a mandated topic, okay? So each officer is supposed to have some type of training. Sometimes it's just like a generalized, hey, make sure that you're updating your officers on what's new about the topic or something like that. So I can tell you that in 2006, we started our CIT program. And in that program, we did have at least 1 hour of that topic, and our CIT is Crisis Intervention Team, or training. So we started that program in 2006. We've carried that through. When Melissa started in 2018, 19, she then took over that program, and that is still the topic that is brought into that training for us. In 2018, we became a dementia-friendly department. And when I talk about the training that my officers get, that is my department only. I can't guarantee you that's what's going on through the state of Indiana, okay? My officers also, during our mandatory training that we give them yearly, they do get at least 30 minutes to an hour's worth of training in some type of dementia training, okay? Whether it's scenario-based, or it's video-based, or we talk about it. Okay, so there's something going on with them. There's something, they're getting some kind of information that's flowing for them with this topic. And the reason is in Bloomington, if you're not familiar with it, is we have a very large retirement community within our area. It's just a beautiful place for a lot of people to retire to. So our community has not only college students, if you're not familiar with our area, a lot of college students, but a lot of people like to retire there. So we do have a population of retired individuals. So we deal with a lot of retirees. So it's kind of an important topic for us. So it's very important that we know this, and we are very happy to be one of the first police departments in our community to be dementia friendly. It was brought to me by the chief. He said, let's get this going. We did it. We proudly have our sticker up, and we plan to keep it that way. So I can tell you about 80% of all of our employees have gone through dementia friendly, and we are going to keep it that way. And so that is the history of it. And that's really, I think that's pretty much about it. I will tell you, one of the things that's the best thing that's happened to us with the social workers is once we go to these calls, we are able to then service these out to our social workers so that our officers then know that they are getting the proper care that they need. And one of the topics that I brought in 2019 is we are very lucky not only to have the dementia-friendly folks through this. We brought in IU Health has the driving, what am I trying to say, the driver's ed for elderly drivers. We brought them in so that our officers knew that if they ever dealt with somebody on a traffic accident, or we dealt with a family who said these people should not be driving anymore, that they knew how to do the proper paperwork with the BMV to start that process to see whether or not that person should be on the road anymore. We also brought in Project Lifesaver, which is through our community as well. So if somebody's a person who wanders a lot, that they could get the wristlet put on, is through our fire department. Van Buren Fire Department. A lot of our younger officers didn't know about the program. It's also used for children or adults who have autism, who like to wander a lot. And it's a program that we have in our community that our officers didn't know about. And so again, through education, because I have a lot of time on and I know about these programs, I was able to, because I'm the training coordinator, to bring in some programs that our younger officers didn't know about. And it's helpful to spread this information out. So, I think that's about all I can say about that kind of information. And I think we have some stories. Is that what our next slides are
Yeah.
about?
But we did,
We don't have our PowerPoint up, so
Oh,
we're
yeah.
trying to kind
that's okay.
of muddle through it right now, so we apologize.
Before we get into just some like scenarios or cases,
Yeah, brought some cases for you guys.
yeah, do you want to talk a little bit, or does anybody have questions right now off the top of their head? Okay, great. So, no, perfect.
After lunch.
We're answering, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
it is after lunch, I know. Good thing I'm up here, I have adrenaline going. So when I talked about my background, I said serious mental illness, sexual assault, and when I got to the police department, I honestly had no idea about the number of aging elderly clients who would call the police department. And it was honestly a surprise for me, so I've been learning a lot in the last few years. I love that our department already invests in this because I got the chance to go through all of these things too, but I truly had no idea the number. I would say serious mental illness and aging and elderly, those are by top two, probably tied in terms of why somebody's referred to me.
So I live in Indy, and so we have, a 911, but then we have the other police that we can call that's not, it's not a real crisis situation. Would you say in a case like this, you would call that number, or would you call the 911?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
it seems like, because they'll talk to you more if it's not a 911, oftentimes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
To me, that might not be a 911 call for
yeah,
the Marion County.
yeah. I
For
think
us
if it's
in
not-
Monroe
there's
County,
no-
that would,
Yeah.
I mean, we only have 911.
Yeah, I know, yeah, so it's like, so it depends on where you are.
Yeah, and again, if you're talking Virginia, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Every state's
Every-
different,
everything-
every county's kind
county
of
and
different.
Every city and all of it's all
Yeah.
different, yeah.
So your county doesn't have a non-emergent?
We have our county has a non-emergency, but, I mean, somebody walking in a robe at 2 o'clock in the morning, they probably would call 911.
And it's
Now, would they
like-
respond licensed sirens? Probably not,
Right, yeah.
but they would probably still call 911.
But at least it'd be on the books. you know,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they would respond licensed sirens to that incident, but, yeah, I mean, they'd get their.
They wouldn't laugh at you.
No, I don't think they would laugh at her, no.
Because we all, the family of four
They're not
saw
doing
her.
it
She wasn't made up. She wasn't made up, but it was just,
But again, I think
Yeah.
everything's just evolved, medicine's
Right,
evolved and, just all of that.
yes.
Anything else?
Thank you guys for having.
Thank you
Yeah, and for,
for your partnership
oh,
with
the
us.
partnership is so good, yeah.